Reddit. What the best revenge you've ever gotten on someone? I was living with a friend of mine and a girl I didn't know too well. We became friends and started hanging out a bunch. I ended up getting into a car accident on the freeway and had to move home. It took me a few days to get back to pack, and when I did, most of my stuff was missing. I was furious and upset about it. The girl told me my friend had a few people over and that maybe they had taken the stuff. Well, I went to grab some boxes and pack some more while she was gone and went into her room to snoop, and sure enough, this girl had taken over half my closet and hid it in her room, including my CDs, old antique perfume bottles my grandma had given me, down to socks and bras. WTF. So anyway, I was livid, packed all my stuff and took all my stuff out of her room that she was trying to steal. Then went back with some black garbage bags and took all of her clothes she had hanging up and anything else I could find. Took it all to BFE and lit it on fire. She called me frantic and said she was missing all her stuff, and I told her the people that took my stuff must have took hers too. Once she knew she'd been caught, she threatened me and told me she was going to call the cops. I told her to go ahead. They wouldn't have found anything anyway. I made my old boss think I gave him herpes. I worked in a crappy factory for a while, and my boss was a D beyond D's. Like, fire people for no reason then go home and beat your wife D. He was also untouchable due to his uncle owning the company. He would come down to the floor while we were at break to check our work, and he would use my gloves to do it. Made us buy our own gloves. I bought really nice comfy ones. Thought this was extremely nasty. It was the middle of summer, and asked him to stop. He just shrugged. After about 3 happenings, I got an idea. I grabbed an old pair of gloves, a poison ivy leaf, and a hammer. Put the poison ivy in glove and pounded away. Kept the gloves in a bag in my lunchbox till I went to lunch. Sure enough, left the poison gloves out and he used them. I came back and sure enough, he used them. 2 hours later, he came out of my machine, itching like crazy and red bumps all over his hands. Came right up to me. "Let me see your hands." I showed him my hands. He showed me his. "You didn't use my gloves, did you?" I got some terrible rash on my hands from some slut at the strip club last week. No words, no looks. He just left. He left work, went to the DR, and I hope told that exact story. In high school, my best friend since the 3rd grade, blew my BF of 2 years. I found out and stopped talking to her. She then starts dating this really hot guy a year older than us, and I became his friend. We turn into really good friends, and after a year of her being with him and him being my new best friend, he finally admits he has feelings for me. He then dumps her and I get the satisfaction of watching her cry in the parking lot. Best revenge ever. I didn't suck his D and he left her ass just because he liked me. My friend called me a faggot, so I kissed him all over his body while he slept. Who's the faggot now? My friend forgot to tell me about the midterm, so when he left his Facebook on, I got him timeline. In 4th grade, I was really into paper plane making. I even bought this book of all the world record holding paper planes and would read it every day. I had just moved to America and wore very tacky clothing, so I was made fun of a lot. So one day I copied the design of the paper plane that had the record for longest time in the air, 13.2 seconds or something, and threw it around the playground. It was in the air for 14 seconds. As I rushed to pick it up though, this arsehole 5th grader came out and stepped on it. Now I was a tiny brown Indian kid and he was a big hockey playing 5th grader, but the anger took over me. I punched him in the face. He bled and I ran away thinking I was in trouble. He never mentioned it to anyone though and was always nice to me throughout middle school and high school. TL. Doctor punched in respect. My ex-wife kidnapped my daughter and went to Germany to live with her parents. After $50,000, 5 lawyers, in 2 countries, the State Department, Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and lots of anxiety, I got my daughter back and had a ducking lethal court case against my ex. I chose to drop the charges because I didn't want my daughter to have a mom that was in jail. The county decided to drop the kidnapping charges if she agreed to return to the USA. I could have had anything I wanted from that court case, but all I asked for was 50/50 influence on custody, education, health, and life decisions. That's all I was asking for originally before my ex flipped her it and left in the first place. Now my ex is married and has become super religious. I have taught my daughter to be accepting of others' beliefs, but to question everything. She thinks her mom is nuts. My daughter is ducking autumn. Once a friend couple looted an exquisite dessert I ordered at a restaurant dining with them. The cruel bastards just ate it in front of my eyes. I told them, revenge is a dish best served cold. They just laughed. Roughly 2 years later, we were out drinking beers and they told me they were gonna watch Fight Club, highly anticipating the movie since they both had heard so many good things about it. I ducked them over and told them, spoiler alert, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton are the same person. Spoiler, they didn't get it at first, but 30 minutes into the movie they called me and told me I was an asshole. Edit, as requested. Spoiler tagged. Edit, as requested. The restaurant situation further explained. Fast revenge is good revenge. When we were kids, my sister pushed a whole raw egg into my mouth while we were fighting. I threw up and pushed it into her mouth. Justice done. My wife hijacked, not hacked, my Facebook when I left myself logged in. She posted a bunch of I love Justin Bieber pictures and it. The next time she left her Facebook logged in, I left her a subtle message not to duck with me. Of course, she comes across my computer still logged in, and decides to have a little more fun. Post something else about how I supposedly have a strong affection for the Biebs. Bad move. The next day I find her account still logged in. I changed her relationship status to single. I changed her employer to a well-known local strip club. I posted a photo of Chris Brown, along with the caption, "Chris Brown is so hot, he can beat me anytime." I changed her interests to show her being interested in women and looking for a relationship. Liked several gay, lesbian and swinger groups. I made several other devious alterations to her profile and then changed her language preference to German to delay her ability to reverse the changes I made. Very interesting to see the number of co-workers and lesbians that suddenly came out of the woodwork and hit on my wife. Not to mention the messages asking what happened, and are you guys okay? The angry phone call I received while at work was amazing. She cursed me for what I did, followed by her admission that she deserved it and it was beyond escalation. She proposed a truce, which I accepted, and I walked into my office the next day a hero, since everyone followed the feud. TLDR, turned my wife into a single, lesbian, swinger, stripper, who has a Chris Brown fetish, etc. on Facebook. Her reaction, well done. No retaliation. When I was in high school I had a friend who was a grade higher than me. We lived down the block from each other. One day at school I saw him in the hallway and asked him a question about soccer, which we both played. He looked at me and said, "Do I know you?" and walked off. I blew it off and when I got home went over to his house to talk to him about it. He said, "Sorry but you are a junior and I am a senior. I have standards." I hated him for this comment. I spent a good 2 months hashing out my plan for revenge. I figured out that his mom and dad love their lawn and manicure it every 2 to 3 days. I found out his only child insecurity. He hated lawn work. One Friday night I found a Jewish deli that made fresh dough for bagels. They throw out the rest of the dough from the bagels at the end of the night. At midnight, I grabbed a trash bag of this dough and headed to my friend's house. For the next 5 minutes, I threw little chunks of dough all over his lawn. By the way, this was in the full summer heat in the southern US. The next day when the sun rose, those little nuggets of dough started to rise like ducking hybrid mushrooms all over his lawn and they stuck to the lawn like concrete. His mother and father came out to go to work and was horrified. They blamed their son and his senior classmates for it and he spent the entire weekend scrapping that dough up. In 8th grade, the class itch spread a rumor saying that me and my best friend were lesbian for each other and that I'd contracted head lice from her pubes. Coincidentally, the kids we babysat at the time had a bad case of lice. In a moment of ingenuity, me and my friends wiped a few off their heads and put them in an envelope. The next morning in homeroom, we saw the little cunt asleep on her desk and dumped the lice on her head when no one was looking. They made themselves at home and she had lice for a month. 4 lovely weeks of giggling uncontrollably every time we saw her hopelessly scratching her infested head during class. Paybacks are rich. Once this guy was being a D to me, so I chopped up his parents and fed them to him in a bowl of chili. Because 6th graders are evil incarnates to other 6th graders. A bunch of kids in my class made an unofficial school government. Obviously it just fell into the top pricks and their prick friends being on the top and excluded and made fun of everyone else. I somehow argued my way into a small job in the stupid thing just so they would stop making fun of me. We formed a congress and wrote bills. Suddenly they wouldn't show me a bill and kicked me out. That bill was Beatlemaniac has man boobs, is fat, and should be killed. They wouldn't show that bill to me. Threw them in garbage can, buried them in papers. The rest of the day they made many more of these asinine bills and did the same. After 5th period I went through all the garbage cans, gross I know, and found all of the insulting it they wrote. I said, hey, I got your stupid bills. At first they said UHH. Okay. And I said no. At the end of the day I'm bringing that to our principal. It hit the fan. Long story short, I held it over their heads for the entire day. They lost it and this happened. So all of them begged me to not turn them in. So they were conspiring all day to get the back. So they were all freaking out. So 2 boys, very popular and athletic, cried during the whole thing. So finally one of them cracked, was almost in tears, told on herself and her friends. Nobody ducked with me after that day. TLDR used psychological torture to and mind games get revenge on an organized bully group. They cried and wound up turning themselves in. I should note bullying was a huge problem and they cracking down on it. Oh, I posted this in a thread about whether or not anyone had legitimately slapped anyone, but I'm pretty sure it was buried. Maybe this time I'm not too late. The first time I ever got drunk, my neighbor was having a keg party and told me to come over. A bunch of my older brother's friends were there, and not really knowing anyone else, I was hanging out with them. I asked the fateful question, how do you know when you're drunk? When you can't feel your face anymore? Slap. 5 years later, I was at a party with a bunch of the same people. I walked up to the man who slapped me, wound up, and slapped him as hard as I could across his stupid bearded face. The whole room went quiet, and I announced 5 years ago, party, you slapped me, now we're even. Slow clap. Vindication. A kid who treated school like it was pointless and caused tons of problems for everyone once tried to get me expelled by saying I was going to bring a gun to school. Because he was just a douche, I was called into the principal's office. There were cops, and I kid you not, a PowerPoint presentation about gun safety in schools. I asked what all this was about, and they said someone had said I was going to pull this off. I was admittedly scared, but I kept my cool and explained how I'm one of the kids. I worked on after school projects and was surprisingly not that bad. Just told jokes a lot. Now as it turns out, you can place tips anonymously, but this D had opted not to. I had a class where he was always a D to me, so the teacher was called, asked for their opinion. Apparently he had heard a rumor someone called a fake threat in the hall before his current class. Well, with a little luck, and a teacher on my side, plus the other kid's reputation was itty, and his grades were too, and my grades were, well, less itty, but my reputation was pretty good, so I got off the hook. I was relieved, but angry. Given the situation, I played up the victim role, and congratulated people for behaving responsibly to a perceived threat. Asked what would happen to the kid that put me through this hassle, and specifically asked if this was worth expulsion. I saw the principal smile, but he said he couldn't tell me. School policy. But a week later he was expelled, and all I had to do was plant an idea, I guess he had broken one too many rules lol. So when I was at primary school we had a huge Pokemon card fad. This D-head kid, let's call him Adolf, stole my ducking Pokemon cards. I was crying at home for ages and eventually my dad got out of me what had happened. First off, my dad phoned Adolf's house phone wishing to speak to his mother. Adolf pretended to be his mum and assured my dad that all would be sorted out. Not to be outwitted by a 9-year-old. My dad realized this and complained to the school. Adolf denied all accusations and got away with it. In reaction to the drama, the school banned Pokemon cards. So now everyone hated me because they blame my snitching on getting Pokemon banned. I'm down all my Pokemon cards. I vowed to myself that I'd take revenge on Adolf. I saved up my pocket money for months and eventually get a decent collection of Pokemon cards. including a Blastoise. D. I then started an underground Pokemon card club in the boys' toilets of the school during morning and lunch break. The teachers never found out about it, but every now and then a kid would be caught and have his cards confiscated. I was the leader of this group and everyone looked up to me. I would always make everyone chip in a few cards to anyone who had theirs confiscated. Adolf was forever banned from partaking in the underground poker club. He spent like a year playing by himself. My little sister and I used to hang out with a bunch of rowdy kids when we were 7 and 9. An 11-year-old boy decided to throw a rock at my sister from across a major street and missed. She calmly picked up the rock and tossed it back and it glanced off his head. My dad proceeded to try to give my sister a talking to about throwing rocks, but he was beaming with pride. This will definitely get buried, but for the 2 people who might read it, here goes. When I was 6, I lived in a street with 6 other kids that I became friends with. Every day we'll do our routine going to the shop to buy candies and whatnot. There was a fat kid called Charbs who was around 9 and used to bully the shit out of us. We had to walk past his place on the way to the shop and he'll always ambush us on the way back, take our stuff, punch 1 or 2 of us in the gut, then eat our candy etc in front of us. His parents were douchebag enablers who figured, hey, survival of the fittest, and just laughed. One Easter my mother was making homemade chocolates and my friends were over waiting for the epic deliciousness that is soft scented chocolates to unfold when I had an idea. I had a pet husky called Wolfie. I stole a little molten chocolate, covered some bite-sized turds in it, let them set and then wrapped them in colored cellophane. We then paraded down the street and made as much noise as possible trying to lure out Charbs. He took the bait. We faked being upset and handed over our chocolates. He unwrapped the first one, ate it whole, then stuffed a second one in his mouth and was making yum gestures until he realized. His face went from ecstasy to WTF to a shade of green I've never seen before. Then he doubled over, hurled all over the place and pulled his eyes out as we laughed and pointed, in no particular order. I then kicked him in the nuts. He didn't come out much after that. DR tricked a fat bully into eating choc-covered turds, then kicked him in the nuts while he was vomiting. So I just found out that my ex-girlfriend was only in a relationship with me because she wanted someone to go to prom with. I really liked her, so I dropped $240 on the night, tickets for us both, a tux, a nice corsage, and of course some alcohol. Well, after I found out that she had just used me to go, a mutual friend of ours showed me a conversation they'd been having. Something along the lines of how many guys she's hooking up with, how they are super hot, chiseled abs, whatever. I was pissed because she never once hooked up with me, and she wasn't even in a relationship with any of them. A couple months after all of this, that same friend showed me a text from my ex saying, "Duck, I have gonorrhea," posted it on FB and tagged her in it. Boom. Not me, but my older brother. Him and his friends were in high school and there was some itch of a girl that would come and steal his friend's milkshake every day at lunch. This had been going on for a while and it was pissing all of them off. So my brother came up with a way to get back at her. The next day would be like any other. His friend would get his lunch and milkshake, but they would cut up some X-Lax and stir it into the milkshake. The next day rolls around and they proceed with the plan. Well, the itch comes in all her itchiness and takes the milkshake, laughing while she snatches his drink, and I think called him some rude name or something. The joke was on her though, because she apparently didn't show up for school for the next 3 days. That girl was keyless, and it was that day that her milkshake did not bring any boys to the yard. Edit. That last sentence is a lie. Spoiler. I was in a local mall's indoor car park and was about to leave. It was peak hour and traffic inside was crawling. I side parked and was the end of the row, so all I had to do was drive forward to join in the crawling traffic. This guy that saw me getting into my car, obviously being a D, decided to stick really closely to the car in front so as to not let me join in. Bear in mind the traffic now was not moving. I started my engine and waited for the D to pass before joining in the queue. He then got so close that he rammed into the bumper of the car he was sticking closely to. That felt real good. I smirked to myself and reversed to exit the other way, calm as a itch. So my neighbor, a young guy who lives by himself, always used to pee on my garden. I'm not sure why, but he just did. I decide to collect my piss for a week and pour it all into his bathtub. I sneak into his house at night and dump the piss into his tub. He wakes up and starts yelling at me. Then I stab him in the chest, hack off his limbs, then eat him alive. Nobody ducks with my garden. This is the best I can think of right now. I'm the manager of a local gym in my area. Of course, we have contracts that state you can only cancel your membership for certain reasons and have to pay a small cancellation fee. At most it's like $50. Now being the manager, sometimes I'll let the cancellation slide if they have a really legitimate reason and let them cancel and just pay the fee. One day last year, this girl came in to cancel. She told me why, and I went over the rules with her again and her other options. She gets really cunty once I tell her the rules because her reason does not really apply to cancel. I was thinking about letting her slide at first, until she started being a royal itch to me. Instead, I told her nope and made her pay off the remaining 10 months of her contract to cancel. And it was her birthday. TLDR happy birthday, itch. Since kindergarten there was a kid that bullied me to no end. He would harass me, call me names, and toy with my weak emotions. I was a small sensitive child, so after 9 years of constant torture, we were put in the same math class in 8th grade. Needless to say, I wasn't happy with this. I was bullied on the bus and in class, till one day I decided I'd had enough. I decided to strategically purchase a second lunch. Once every few days, I had to save up my spare quarters. After I bought them, I stored them in my locker, which I didn't really use. After 2 months, those lunches had morphed into the most putrid mush on the planet. I had stored them in plastic baggies as to prevent the smell from escaping my locker, but that it still reeked. At this point it was June, and the end of the year was coming, as was my revenge. My school has a large spiral-like staircase, where there is a balcony overlooking the lower stairs. After my last math class of the year, we were released early to go to our buses. I rushed to my locker and grabbed the garbage bag full of nausea and prepared myself, without a word. As I watched my bully go down the stairs, I dropped the bag off the balcony and immediately strutted off like I wasn't doing anything. I heard a very loud what the duck and then ran to the bus via another stairway. Watching him have to sit on the bus covered in rotting food all the way home, which was 20 minutes away, was the best feeling ever. And I got off scot-free too. TLDR. Saved a bunch of rotting food for 2 months then poured it on my bully, forcing him to sit in it for half an hour.